ますます発展いたしまして、社長以下一丸となって、ご努力をしていただければならんと存ずる次第でございます。
価値ある製品とは、消費者の満足する製品であり、また使用する目的と値段に応じた車を生産することであります。
In 1908, around the time the Russo-Japanese War had ended and Japan was rising up to the world stage, a young man lived in Hamamatsu, a bustling area of the textile industry. Michio Suzuki, still only 21 years old, would go on to become the founder of Suzuki. After becoming a carpenter's apprentice, Michio became a loom maker. His mother made a living by farming and weaving. He wanted to make things easier for her. That desire led Michio to hand-make a treadle loom. It was born of pure gratitude to his mother who had raised him. Incredibly, that loom increased productivity tenfold. People were amazed by Michio's loom. They wanted one too. Michio was rapidly inundated with orders. He couldn't believe how much people loved a product he had made to help his mother. He wanted to create more things that would make people happy, to bring more people joy. 1909, Suzuki Loom Works is founded. One core philosophy underpinned Michio's looms. They must be made to be high performance, easy for all to use, and affordable. One after another, Michio's products became popular, and the business expanded greatly. The 15th of March 1920, Suzuki Loom Manufacturing Company Limited is founded. This was the start of the Suzuki organization that endures to this day. Suzuki Loom Manufacturing was a company imbued with what is now called a start-up spirit. Generate ideas without constraints. If you have an idea, try it out. Once something has been decided, unite and spare no effort to act on your belief. 1930. Expanding overseas. Only 10 years had passed since the company's founding. Suzuki looms were a big hit throughout Southeast Asia. In fact, in Indonesia, a loom was known as a Suzuki. In the 1950s, Suzuki embarked on a new business. That was the motorcycle business. Its development was led by Shunzo Suzuki, the company's future second president. Shunzo thought endlessly about what kind of products would make customers happy. Shunzo often observed people riding around on bicycles. He thought, as long as we make things that are truly useful to people, we'll definitely succeed. 1952, launch of the power-free auxiliary bicycle engine. This unique engine featured a double sprocket gear that enabled the rider to switch between pedal-based and engine-based transmission. The Power Free was perfect for everyday life and became a daily necessity that supported the lives of many. In 1960, Suzuki entered the time-honored Isle of Man Tourist Trophy race for the first time. 2 years later, Suzuki took its first victory. Only 8 years since the launch of its first motorcycles. The Suzuki Dream that took flight overseas before World War II on weaving looms transformed into a motorcycle, giving rise to the global Suzuki. As the motorcycle business drove the company, Michio had one enduring dream. He set about researching automobiles. Huge opposition arose both inside and outside the company at the massive cost of automobile development. Why do we have to dive into automobiles right now? Shouldn't we be focusing on motorcycles instead? But Michio's conviction was unwavering. Japan was beginning to undergo motorization. Michio was confident. He thought, automobiles can absolutely change people's lives. Almost as though giving himself no way back, Michio changed the name of the company. On the 1st of June 1954, the company's name changed to Suzuki Motor Company Limited. Despite not having a single finished vehicle, this was the beginning of a challenge that carried grand dreams for the auto industry. In October 1954, 2 Suzuki prototypes ascended Mount Hakone and drove on as far as Tokyo. This was only 9 months since automobile research had begun in earnest. 1955, launch of the Suzulite. This was the first of Suzuki's pioneering mini-vehicles. The Suzulite name incorporated the name Suzuki and both meanings of light, as bright light and lightweight. Lightweight and easy for anyone to drive. Suzuki's history of mini-vehicles began here. In 1961, the commercial vehicle Suzulite Carry was launched. This was a vehicle born out of a desire to support the lives of workers. 1962, establishment of the mission statement. In its mission statement, Suzuki defined a spirit that echoes its own origins. It was Suzuki's philosophy of manufacturing that remained unchanged since Michio had hand-built a loom for his mother. Focus on the customer, to deliver useful products that will bring the customer joy. Suzuki went on to deliver a series of innovative products to the world. In addition to motorcycles and automobiles, Suzuki expanded into new businesses. 1965, launch of an outboard motor. At sea, in the hills, on land. With products that bring joy to customers, we want to offer freedom of mobility that supports people everywhere. This philosophy continues shaping Suzuki today. The 1970s. To compete against subcompact and standard-size vehicles, mini-vehicles had become high-priced, competing in terms of luxury. People's preferences began moving away from them. Some people said openly that people didn't need mini-vehicles. They said Suzuki was finished. But one man wholeheartedly believed that mini-vehicles were still viable. That by their very nature, they could enrich the lives of people everywhere, now and in the future. This was Osamu Suzuki, who became president at just 48. Osamu was very mindful of Suzuki's origins. He aimed to make a mini vehicle that was small, lightweight, easy to use, and affordable for everyone. That kind of vehicle would bring joy to customers. At a time when cars under 500,000 yen were an impossibility, he aimed to make a mini vehicle that defied convention. Voices of opposition arose within the company. Engineers insisted it was impossible. But Osamu didn't back down. He relentlessly pursued part and cost reductions. He believed if they couldn't make this car that embodied Suzuki's origins, then Suzuki would be finished. To the engineers who insisted that they could not reduce prime cost any further, Osamu said, "So remove the engine." That persistence and unity in working together once a decision is made to get results at record speed, that Suzuki spirit that existed when the company was founded, created a single mini vehicle that saved the company from crisis.
Zengoku 標準現金価格47万円と設定をさせていただきました。
A single nationwide price of 470,000 yen. It was a surprise, and the people who had viewed automobiles as an unattainable luxury applauded. The Alto was a car that women could drive easily. An increasing number of women held a driver's license at the time, but not a single car on the market had been considered for female drivers. A large number of women took up driving the Alto with confidence and joy all over Japan. An era of female drivers was thus pioneered by the Alto. The Alto's success changed Suzuki's reputation. The innovative, compact car that was the Alto totally astonished the world's car manufacturers. August 1981. Shocking news swept across Japan. Suzuki, a small manufacturer from Hamamatsu, formed a tie-up with General Motors, the world's largest car manufacturer at the time. General Motors had seen the Alto. Seeking opportunities to develop compact cars, it had approached Suzuki. Many people whispered that Suzuki would be swallowed up by the giant GM. But Osamu said, "A minnow will probably be swallowed by a whale. But a small mosquito can fly high and away in an emergency." In 1983, one vehicle arose from the tie-up with General Motors. The Cultus, a global strategic compact car. The Cultus arose from a fusion of Suzuki's knowledge of manufacturing compact cars and General Motors' car manufacturing know-how. 1984. The Cultus, which was manufactured at the Kosai plant in Shizuoka, crossed the Pacific Ocean and headed for North America. For the first time, an automobile made by Suzuki, a small manufacturer from Hamamatsu, landed in America, the home of motorization.
Japan 日本の国内で後発のメーカーだからどっかで一番になることを考えたいなと。自動車メーカーのないとこ行けば一番になれるわけです。
In 1975, assembly of the Jimny began in Pakistan. This was Suzuki's first overseas automobile production. In 1982, plans that would change Suzuki's destiny were made. Overseas expansion into India. With its massive population, for India, economic development was a pressing issue for enriching the lives of its people. The National Car Project was the trump card for achieving this. The Indian government was pinning its hopes on a Japanese automaker. But none responded seriously to the Indian government's request. None but one, Suzuki. The only top executives who seriously listened to India were from Suzuki. Entrusting the National Car Project was a decision that held the fate of a nation. Should this be entrusted to Suzuki? There was repeated, heated debate. The thing that spurred the decision was the Alto. It was GM, the world's top automaker, that had proposed the tie-up with Suzuki. That in itself proved Suzuki's skills. Suzuki was selected as development partner for India's National Car Project. A major obstacle faced Suzuki in India: India's unique customs. Osamu said a national car couldn't be made unless something changed. Wearing the same work uniform as ordinary employees, Osamu lined up with staff in the cafeteria. At the sight of a top executive lining up with ordinary employees, managerial staff were astonished. Osamu produced a short video called "Let's Go Forward Together." It explained Suzuki's manufacturing processes to Indian employees. The Indian managerial staff dressed in work uniforms like Osamu did and started lining up in the cafeteria. Then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi said, "Suzuki has changed India's work culture."
日本のスズキはワークカルチャーを変えた。インドのワークカルチャーを変えた。労働文化を変えた。これがそのスズキの評価だ。
The Alto was modified for the Indian market and launched. Suzuki automobiles were warmly accepted by the Indian people. The masses of people who had given up car ownership as a dream were able to access the fullness of life with a car. But that's not all Suzuki delivered. Suzuki insisted that parts be procured from locally owned companies. That meant building a true people's car. A succession of parts manufacturers arose in India and nurtured a domestic industry. That boosted the Indian economy and became a driving force for enriching the lives of the Indian people. Suzuki boasted a 50% share of the passenger vehicle market and quite literally became India's national car manufacturer. The success of the Alto opened up many new opportunities for Suzuki's overseas expansion. It was the Alto that opened the door to Hungary. In the late 1980s, there was increasing momentum for economic reform in Hungary. Deputy Prime Minister Péter Megyesi was trying to achieve overseas economic cooperation by nurturing an automotive industry. One day at a dinner party, the Maruti 800, which had been exported from India to Hungary, became the topic of conversation. It's light and compact, but it's really reliable and functional. People spoke passionately of its performance. Could we invite Suzuki to come here? Mejisi was eager to tour a Maruti Suzuki factory on a visit to India. What he saw there were Indian people working happily. Seeing how Suzuki's cars had brought economic growth to the people of India, he decided to invite Suzuki to Hungary. A tie-up with General Motors and expansion into India and Hungary led Suzuki to spread its wings globally. And it was none other than the Alto that brought everything together. In four corners of the world, Japan, Hungary, China, and India, Suzuki started simultaneously producing a global compact car. The Swift was announced at the Paris Motor Show to great acclaim. Many automotive journalists gave it rave reviews. Starting with the 2005 RJC Car of the Year award, the Swift was awarded Car of the Year in 11 countries and regions. Suzuki, a small car manufacturer from Hamamatsu, truly became a car manufacturer on the world stage. With automobiles, we will surely change lives. 50 years had passed since the day that idea sent the first prototype up Mount Hakone. The 1970s. Suzuki motorcycles basked in glory. In races throughout the world, they continued to be victorious. Suzuki made its name famous. Entering the 1980s, Suzuki poured its energies into the development of large motorcycles. 1981. As soon as it debuted at the Cologne Motor Show, this machine caused a sensation. The Katana, which was renowned as the Shock of Cologne, was followed by a series of timeless masterpieces. A totally new genre of motorcycles called racer replicas was enthusiastically received by motorcycle fans. In 1990, Suzuki changed its company name. Motorcycles, automobiles, outboard motors, unconstrained by product categories, Suzuki delivers freedom of mobility that supports living with products that bring joy to customers. The new company name embodied this passion. Develop products of superior value by focusing on the customer. To achieve this, Suzuki had a monozukuri, or manufacturing philosophy at its core. Smaller, fewer, lighter, shorter, neater. Smaller meaning more compact. Fewer meaning less waste. Lighter meaning more efficient. Shorter meaning done faster. And neater meaning more beautifully. All manufacturing and quality should embody an absolute promise to the customer, without a single compromise. On the surface, that philosophy appeared to create major constraints. But Suzuki had been producing a succession of original products that impressed the world. Constraints are not shackles. They're a trove of ideas. 1993, launch of the Wagon-R. This vehicle, which defied mini-vehicle convention, also attracted users of standard-size automobiles. The Wagon-R was the first mini-vehicle to be awarded Japan's Car of the Year. The era of people seeing mini vehicles as a nuisance became one of seeing mini vehicles positively. This came along with Suzuki's growth. Motorization is now experiencing a once-in-a-century transformation. Case, mass, carbon neutrality, and more. For the sake of the future, the mobility industry must address increasingly serious issues. It's not just about individual technologies. How do we handle infrastructure? How do we set new rules? We cannot act alone, and without other companies, we'll be unable to shape a future for our customers. In 2016, Suzuki decided to collaborate with Toyota Motor Corporation. This decision was made to create a future with accessible mobility for customers. At the joint press conference, Osamu said that Toyota's honorary chairman, Shoichiro Toyoda, had encouraged him. Toyota had helped Suzuki weather two crises, the 1950 labor dispute and the 1975 exhaust gas regulations. Osamu said, "I'm truly grateful to them for saving our business. I look forward to the next 100 years." This collaboration will make the future of mobility more accessible for all our customers. Suzuki will continue embracing challenge. With enduring passion for customers, we will continue challenging ourselves to create products with original value that are easy to use, fun, and uniquely Suzuki. Imagining the smiling faces of people around the world. It has been a century since our founder Michio Suzuki started this company. It is as though he imagined the faces of happy customers as he took up the challenges of manufacturing.
100年の節目という意味でね、もう一回創業の原点に帰ってお客様の立場になって物事を考える、もう一回原点に戻ってしっかりやるっていうのをね、お客様がどんな顔して使ってもらえるかとかね、いうようなところをしっかりと思い浮かべて、四輪だとか二輪という枠にとらわれずに、既存のものでは多分味わえないもの、そういうようなものをやっぱり作っていかなきゃいけない。出したらワクワクしてもらえるよな。鈴木が100年の歴史を刻むことができたというのは、本当にお客様があってということで感謝感謝感謝ということだと思います。次の100年に向けてもですね、お客様がこんなのが欲しかった、ワクワクするぞというような車作り、楽しめる車作りをしっかりとやっていきたいというふうに思います。
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Gracias.
ขอบคุณครับ
Merci.
शुक्रिया.
Segamal.
Dziękuję.
Grazie.
ขอบคุณครับ
ありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。
Thank you.
It has been 100 years of feeling nothing less than the deepest gratitude. Today and tomorrow, Suzuki will continue embracing challenge.